On today's show, the Cavs have figured out their ideal fifth starter. The only question is, do they have enough time to make it work? I'll discuss that next right here on Locked on Cavs.
You are Locked on Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi again, everybody. My name is Danny Cunningham, and I cover the Cleveland Cavaliers over at my Substack, The Inside Shot, and welcome into another edition of Locked on Cavs, where today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Have your cake and drink it too. Birthday cake flavor is back. No fork needed. Vanilla-y cakey flavor, caffeinated kick, and no sugar. It's party time. Order now at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon today. On today's show, we will be discussing Max Strus and why I think he is the ideal fifth starter for the Cavs after what we have seen from him in just 2 games so far this season as he works his way back from that Jones fracture in his left foot. We'll talk about the play of Evan Mobley and Donovan Mitchell as of late because Evan's been pretty good and Donovan needs to be better. And then we will take a look at what we should expect from the Cavs on Thursday night in Chicago. And if you're watching this video, you can see I am not at home. I am in a hotel room in Chicago. I will be at the game between the Cavs and the Bulls on Thursday. But I wanted to begin with a guy who is from Chicago, and that is Max Strus. And he has played now 2 games this season for the Cavs. So everything is obviously extremely small in terms of sample size. He played on Sunday against the Dallas Mavericks, and he was excellent in that game. He was actually the best player that the Cavs had against Dallas in what was a very bad loss for them. And then he played again on Tuesday in Milwaukee. He did not play as well against the Bucks, but he did close out that game. And I think the fact that he closed out that game says a lot about how much Cavs head coach Kenny Atkinson trusts Max Strus. And that's part of the reason why I think he's the ideal fifth starter for this group. And I know that I've talked a lot about how Dean Wade should be the starting small forward. And I do think that as of right now, until Max is no longer on a minutes restriction, that's something that makes sense because I do think it's easier to manage minutes for somebody that right now Kenny Atkinson has said the minutes restriction for Max is in the low to mid 20s, right? He's played 22 minutes, basically 23 minutes in the first couple of games. And I think it's easier to do that when somebody's coming off the bench. Like, would Max make more sense in the starting lineup than Dean does right now? I definitely believe so. And I'm going to tell you why in a second. But I do think that in order to get the most out of Max and in order to, I guess, for lack of a better way, and I do not intend this pun here, but in order to maximize his minutes, bringing him off the bench makes sense right now. But I think the best version of the Cavs has him as their starting small forward. And we have obviously seen this over the past couple of seasons. And last year we talked a lot about how it could be him or DeAndre Hunter. And there were things that I thought DeAndre made more sense as the starting small forward on last year's Cavs team. And I thought that he was one of their 5 best players. But as I look at the roster right now, with everything that Max provides for them, I think Max is, at his best, the 5th best player the Cavs have. Obviously, you have Donovan, you have James, you have Evan, you have Jarrett. Like, those 4 guys are locked into the starting lineup, and that 5th spot has been a revolving door. Really, all of the spots have been a revolving door because of all the injuries. But ultimately, I do think Max should be the guy that starts at small forward because he can, I think at his best, connect the front court to the back court in a way that nobody else on this roster can. And Kenny Atkinson has used that phrase, connector, or I guess term is a better way to put it, when describing Max several times, too many times to count over the past couple of seasons while Max has been here, while Kenny has been the head coach. And I think that is a very good way to describe what Max does. He does a lot of prototypical small forward things. Now, he is a little undersized at that spot, and the Cavs are a bigger team when Dean Wade is on the floor by a significant amount because Dean Wade is 6'9" and Max is somewhere between 6'4" and 6'5", and that makes a big difference when you're talking about defending some of the better players in the Eastern Conference. But I look at a lot of the things and some of Dean's shortcomings where he is not the most aggressive offensive player. I think that he, when he's playing the small forward, can be a little bit too passive in terms of rebounding, knowing that Evan Mobley's on the floor with him, that Jared Allen is on the floor with him, because when he's playing small forward, that's the case. And I think that he's a little bit too passive of a rebounder in those situations. And I don't think either of those two things are true for Max. I think that no matter who Max is on the floor with, he's going to be a very aggressive basketball player. And that is something that I do think tends to be more impactful for the Cavs than what anyone else can provide. And I also think, too, he is the best combination of defensive IQ and aggressiveness that the Cavs have. Like Jalen Tyson has, I think, grown tremendously as a defensive player so far this season, but there are still times where I think he can be a little bit lost defensively. And that's just kind of part of being a young player. It doesn't mean it's always going to be that way, but I just think that there's more trust that the Cavs would have in Max Strus. And offensively, the fact that Max is a movement-based player, I think, is an interesting fit alongside James Harden, alongside Donovan Mitchell, and we're going to have to continue to see how that looks. Obviously, he played minutes alongside both of them in each of these first 2 games that he's played. We obviously have not seen him alongside Jared Allen because Jared Allen has not played and will not play at least until next Tuesday. So we don't know what all of that looks like as of right now, but it's not as if Max hasn't logged a lot of minutes alongside Jarrett and Evan and Donovan. James is the new guy in town, and he's the one that Max needs to figure out chemistry with, but I have no reason to believe that can't happen quickly. This all being said, I don't know if the Cavs are going to get to a point this regular season where they make that change, because I don't know how long this minutes restriction is going to go on for Max Strus. I would not be surprised if this is something that goes near the end of the regular season. And I don't know if, as it continues to increase, is there a certain threshold where, okay, the minutes restriction now, just let's say in 2 weeks, is instead of being in the low 20s, is in the high 20s. Let's say the Cavs feel comfortable with Max playing 28 to 30 minutes in a game as opposed to 22 to 24 minutes in a game, which is what he has been so far. If that is the case, is that enough leeway to start games for Max and finish games? Because he's already finished games. Like I said earlier, I think it says a lot that game number 2 for Max, and I don't want to call Tuesday against Milwaukee a must win, but that, again, would have been a really, really bad loss. And the Cavs had, for the first time this season, their full allotment of players on the wing available to them. Dean Wade was healthy. Jalen Tyson was healthy. Max was out there. Sam Merrill came back from that hamstring injury. Keon Ellis was available. He played a lot. Like, all of those guys were available to play, and this does not necessarily speak to entirely what the rotation is going to be, because when you are still missing Jared Allen, like, those are a lot of minutes that are able to be spread out elsewhere. And when Jared Allen is healthy in the playoffs, I would imagine we're not going to see many, if any, Dean Wade at center minutes. That might be something that is matchup dependent, though. But like, there were more minutes to go around in Tuesday night's game, and there will be again on Thursday night against the Bulls, because the Cavs are missing Jared Allen. So there are more minutes that can be spread out to the wing, because the Cavs will then play a little bit smaller. But I think the fact that the Cavs are scripted, because when somebody is on a minutes restriction, the way that Max is right now, that means that the team is scripting out his minutes. They're planning on playing him closing minutes. The fact that that is true after he had not played between May 11th and this past Sunday against the Dallas Mavericks says a lot about how the Cavs and Kenny Atkinson feel about Max Strus. Because I think it would have been really easy and nobody would have had any pushback, and it would have made a lot of sense for the Cavs to bring Max back and, okay, you're going to play your 22 minutes, but he's going to check out with 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and that's going to be that. But they have this trust in him that even as he works his way back, and even as he doesn't quite look all the way like himself, because I don't think defensively he's been all that great yet. Now he's rebounded the basketball very well. He hit a couple of big shots, one at the end of the third quarter, one at the end of the shot clock in the fourth quarter against the Bucks. Like, those things matter. But he didn't necessarily look himself defensively, and he can get back to that. I think it's going to be a process to get in game shape, to get back to the speed of the game. Like, these things are going to come with time, but the fact that they trust him in what was you probably need to win this game, again, not a must win game, but if you lose this game, it's going to feel real bad. Like, those were some big moments that Max was on the floor for. And when somebody's on a minutes restriction, that's by design. And by looking at that, it almost tells me that, okay, the Cavs at their best have this guy on the floor. And if that's true, and we know that's also true of Donovan Mitchell and James Harden and Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, then that tells me this is the ideal fifth starter for the Cavs. Now, do they have enough time to make that a reality? Is there enough time left in the season to get Max all the way up to speed? I'm less sure about that. But after watching him coming off of this injury, even for 2 games, I'm very sure that Max Strus is the best potential guy to have in there at the small forward spot. Not saying he needs to start on Thursday night, not saying he needs to start on Saturday, but I do think one goal for the Cavs could be between now and the end of the season, if they can get some runway with Max playing alongside the rest of the starters, I think that'd be a really good thing. And I do think that there are some fun lineup combinations that I think could work really well for the Cavs, some that have Jared Allen not part of them because, as we mentioned, he's out for the next couple of games. But I think it should be important, whether Max starts or not, I think it should be important for him to get minutes alongside the other four guys that are locked in as starters, whether that's him being the first guy off the bench some nights or maybe closing games out when Jared Allen is back and healthy. But I think that is something that getting some data on that, and we know what it looks like with Donovan and Evan and Jarrett, but we've not seen it with James. And I think that's an important thing to get some repetitions with prior to the playoffs arriving, because 1 month from, as I record this, it's Wednesday, March 18th at 7:20 Eastern time. 1 month from right now, the first playoff game for the Cavs could be in the books. The playoffs begin on April 18th. The Cavs could be either up 1-0 or down 1-0 in a playoff series 1 month from this moment. And figuring out how Max fits alongside James Harden, what lineups work with this version of Max Strus is, I think, a very, very important thing. And I do think like pairing him with Sam Merrill in some of these lineups could be fun. Having him on the floor potentially, if they do want to play small with Dean Wade playing center while Jared Allen is out, I think that having Max Strus in those lineups because of the rebounding and offensive creativity that he provides, something that could be really good, because I do think some offensive creativity is missing from some of those lineups. But through the first two games that we've seen with Max, he's looked like Max in a way that I didn't necessarily think it was fair to expect, right? We're going to have fair expectations for guys when they return from injuries, and Max has been better than anybody in their wildest dreams could have imagined. And it also should serve as a reminder that when the Cavs are at their best, when the moments are the biggest, when the lights are the brightest, Max is a guy that they want to have on the floor. And if that's the case, that tells me he should be the starting small forward when that minutes restriction finally goes away, either at some time between now and the end of the regular season or when the postseason arrives. Now, one guy the Cavs need more from is Donovan Mitchell. He's not been at his best lately, and a guy that has been really good is Evan Mobley. We're going to talk about both of those guys next right here on Locked On Cavs. But first, today's show brought to you by Wayfair. Spring is the perfect time to refresh your space and make your home better for you. Whether it's updating a room, adding some outdoor furniture, or finally organizing that cluttered corner, it's a great chance to bring a fresh look into your home. Well, that's where Wayfair comes in. From furniture and decor to organization solutions and outdoor essentials, Wayfair makes it easy to find pieces that match your style and your budget. As I said earlier, I'm in a hotel right now, and I feel really out of place because, as I've mentioned on the past couple of shows when talking about Wayfair, the chair in my office is extremely comfortable. The chair I'm sitting in right now, not quite as comfortable. I think when I'm done recording this episode, I'm probably not going to be sitting in this chair much longer than I need to be, where when I finish recording an episode at home, I'm in no rush to get out of my office because the chair in my office is that comfortable. And that chair, of course, is from Wayfair. I got a chair, I got a dresser, I got a nightstand, I got a couple of other things from Wayfair. The quality is impeccable. I've been extremely happy with my purchases. It has refreshed my home, not just in my office, but at other places around the apartment too. The bedroom, the kitchen. Wayfair has whatever you were looking for, whether you want a new desk for your home office, some storage solutions somewhere else, or outdoor pieces for spring. It's easy to find something that fits both your style and your daily routine. So find furniture, decor, and essentials that fit your unique style and your budget, because that's important too. So head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's Wayfair, Wayfair.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Thank you again for making this edition of Locked On Cavs your first watch on YouTube or your first listen wherever you might be getting your podcast. And if you are an everydayer, you might want to check out the Locked On Cavs Everydayer Club. Get you ad-free versions of this show, plus exclusive access to a Discord where if right now you go, you can sign up, use code MARCH, that's MARCH. You get your first month for free, and if you sign up before the NCAA tournament tips off on Thursday, so you're running out of time to do this, you can compete in our men's and women's bracket pools on Discord. Winner each gets $100 in Locked On merch. The link is in the show notes if you would like to learn more. Again, use that code MARCH, MARCH, for your first month for free. Donovan Mitchell needs to be better for the Cavs than he has been lately. And I don't know how impactful the eye injury, if you were watching on TV on Tuesday night, his left eye looked nasty. I don't know how impactful that was to the game that he played, but the game against Milwaukee is one of the worst games that we have seen Donovan play in a Cavs uniform. Now, I don't think that this game on the surface is that big of a deal. Guys are going to have off nights, and Donovan Mitchell had an off night. The body of work that he has put forth is far greater than one bad game in Milwaukee. It's not as if he's exempt from criticism for that game, but I also think overreacting is silly with a guy like Donovan Mitchell. But I will say that Donovan hasn't been at his best really since the All-Star break. So since the All-Star break, he's shooting just 27.9% from beyond the arc. And keep in mind that this has come while he's dealing with a groin injury, and I don't know how impactful that's been, because in watching that Milwaukee Bucks game on Tuesday, it did not look like, to me, that Donovan was his usual explosive self. And that matters. Like, for Donovan to be at his best, he needs to be explosive. He needs to be extremely athletic. You might not know this, but he's not the tallest guy in the world. And he has always relied upon that athleticism and explosiveness to get to the rim, to get downhill, to get to draw fouls, which is the one thing that he has done really well lately. He's still getting to the free throw line, actually getting there a little bit more. But I do wonder if that's something that's also impacting his jumper, because he's taking right around 8 threes a game, and shooting under 28% on those shots is just not good enough. Like, his efficiency scoring has dipped. He's shooting, like I said, under 30% from three, shooting around 43% overall from the floor. Like, those numbers are not good enough for the Cavs. We have always said that Donovan Mitchell is, you don't want him to be have to have everything on his shoulders, right? There's not a player in basketball that you look and say, that guy put everything on his shoulders. Like, look at Milwaukee, because that's essentially what it is with Giannis. And I realize that he has missed more games than he's played this year, or will end up probably missing more games than he plays in this year. So I understand in saying that, but like, they're still under 500 with Giannis, and Donovan is not Giannis. I'm not trying to compare the two. I'm saying the load that Giannis has to carry, you don't want anyone to have to carry that. And Donovan doesn't have to do that at this point. He had to force stretches this year when the Cavs were without a lot of key players prior to the James Harden trade, the trades for Dennis Schroeder, Keon Ellis. Like, they had to have more of an ask on Donovan Mitchell. And I thought he played tremendous basketball through that stretch. But right now, he hasn't been at his best. And I do wonder how much of that is maybe a nagging injury. That's something that needs to get figured out between now and the playoffs, because for as good as James Harden has been in Cleveland and against Milwaukee, I thought it was the best game that he's played. I know that statistically, the game he played against Orlando, where he had 30 points and 8 assists, like, statistically, that was a better game. But I just thought the overall performance from James was better against the Bucks on Tuesday than that game was in Orlando last week. Not to say they both weren't really good, but I thought he was better on Tuesday. I thought he had more of an impact on Tuesday. They've got that, so Donovan doesn't have to carry as much. Evan has been awesome lately, and we're going to talk about him in a second. But Tuesday night was a rarity for the Cavs, and it's because of James, it's because of Evan, how good those two were against Milwaukee. But the Cavs were outscored by 15 points when Donovan was on the floor. It's just the fourth time this year the Cavs have won a game in which Donovan had a negative plus minus, and the 15 points that the Cavs were outscored, and he played just under 34 minutes in this game. That is the worst plus minus that Donovan has had in a win since he was traded to the Cavs. I didn't go back and look in Utah. It might be the worst one ever in a win for him throughout his career. I don't know. I didn't do that much digging, but that's not a sustainable thing. And I didn't think Donovan was good on either end of the floor against the Bucks. I expect him to be better, but I do wonder if the groin injury is something that is maybe holding him back a little bit, because the Cavs ultimately, like, James Harden is a big help. Evan Mobley is playing awesome basketball. The Cavs roster as a whole, even without Jared Allen right now, is in a much better place than it was earlier this season. But the same thing still rings true. This is a Cavs team that believes it's a championship caliber team. in order to get there, Donovan needs to be at his best. And as of late, he's not been at his best. Now, his assist numbers are kind of right on par with where they've been. His turnovers have actually dipped. So, like, that is a good sign. But Donovan needs to score the ball more efficiently than he has. And that, to me, is something that really needs to be kept an eye on over the next couple of games. And the Cavs have to hope that he is able to get as healthy as possible between now and the postseason. We'll see what he has in store on Thursday in Chicago. Now, as for Evan Mobley, he's been really good lately. And it might not feel like it because the things that he doesn't do well or hasn't done well lately feel really loud, right? Particularly when he's at the free throw line. And the free throw stuff is inexcusable. Needs to be so much better there. And I think that is really the difference from us talking about Evan the way we're going to talk about him right now compared to just like, yes, this guy's playing elite basketball. Because since Jared Allen exited with this injury, Evan's averaging just under 22 points a game, 10.3 rebounds, and 2.5 blocks per game. He's shooting over 60% from the floor while doing it. Like, he looks awesome. Now, he hasn't been hitting threes during this stretch. He had a hot stretch right after the break where he was shooting around 40% on threes in the first 6 or so games. After the All-Star break, he has since cooled down in that area. But he's been really, really good, I think, on both ends of the floor. Now, like I said, the free throw stuff, inexcusable. He's missing 2.5 free throws per game over these past 6 games. That is the difference between, and listen, it's not fair to expect him or anybody in the NBA to shoot 100% from the free throw line. But that's basically the difference between him averaging 22, just under 22, we'll round up, 22 and 10 to 24 and a half and 10. The way I think we would be talking about Evan, if you were just making his free throws, is a little different. But I don't think the fact that what he's been doing from the free throw line is inexcusable and needs to be figured out and like is a big problem for the Cavs, that shouldn't mask just how good he's been in all of the other areas, because he has been elite in a lot of places. At the free throw line, he's been abysmal, but that shouldn't hide the fact that he's been so good in a lot of other spaces lately for the Cavs because they've needed him to step up without Jared Allen. And for the most part, I think Evan has done that. Now, the Cavs are back in action on Thursday against the Bulls. There are no surprises on the injury report, and that should mean they look better than they did on Tuesday. We'll talk about that next right here on Locked On Cavs. But first, today's show brought to you by ZocDoc. Finding a doctor you actually like can feel like discovering a diamond in the rough. Sure, you want someone who's in network, nearby, has availability, but you also want a doctor who listens and makes you feel comfortable and explains things clearly. That kind of doctor does exist, and finding them is easy with ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a free app and website that helps you find and book high-quality in-network doctors so you can find someone you love without all the hassle. We're talking about booking in-network appointments with more than 150,000, that's so many, providers across all 50 states, covering over 200 specialties from primary care and dentistry to dermatology and eye care as well. We've all put off doctor appointments before, probably longer than we should. I know I certainly am guilty of this between work, life, everything else. It can kind of be something that you end up putting off, but ZocDoc will help make the process simple so you can get in and see a doctor. You can search by specialty or symptoms and actually build a care team that works for you. Whether you want to go in person or do a video visit, ZocDoc makes it easy either way. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments. Go to ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA to find and instantly book a doctor that you love today. That is ZocDoc, ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA. Once again, ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA. Thank you to ZocDoc for sponsoring this message. Today's show also brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Welcome to the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft. With 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options like Confetti Craze, Fruity Rainbow, or Cotton Candy, there's something for everyone. The board is set, the flavors are ready, and I've got my number one pick for the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft. For me, personally, it is the sour apple flavor. It's the apple that bites back, a crisp, tangy taste, deliciously tart, and it's bold with a little bit of sweet. And even better for me, a lot of sour. I've loved sour apples since I was a kid, continue to love them, and now I get to love that flavor in a 5-hour energy pick-me-up that sometimes I need. Well, maybe that might not be your first pick. There are several others to choose from: Tropical Burst, Peach Mango, Hawaiian Breeze, Strawberry Banana, if that's your flavor, Berry, Grape, and so many more. 5-hour energy has something for everyone, and if you feel like they don't, well, don't worry, because upcoming flavor innovations are planned as well. 5-hour energy shots give you a boost with zero sugar, so find your new favorite flavor of 5-hour energy shots available online at 5hourenergy.com. That is the number 5, HOUR, energy.com, or on Amazon today. Thank you again for making this edition of Locked On Cavs your first watch on YouTube or your first listen every single day. And thank you for making the show your first watch, because I appreciate it. And if you could hit that thumbs up button, I would greatly appreciate that. And the Cavs do not have any unexpected injuries that have popped up on Thursday for the game against the Chicago Bulls. When the injury report was released at, I believe it came out at 6:15 Eastern time on Wednesday night, Jared Allen was on it, which is to be expected. Tyrese Proctor was on it, which is to be expected. And Craig Porter Jr. was on it, which is to be expected. So no one popped up that's not going to be able to play in this game, which means for just the second time all season, the Cavs are going to have their full allotment of wings available. And it's also an opportunity for them to take on a Chicago team that is playing the second night of a back-to-back. They are tipping off in about 20 minutes as I record this here in Chicago, not too far from United Center. They're playing the Toronto Raptors, so we should watch the Cavs play a bit of a tired Bulls team that I believe is just getting back from a road trip as well. But the Cavs should handle business. They should look better than they did. The results, I guess I should say, should look better than they did against Milwaukee, because in the moment, and I know I talked about this on yesterday's show, in the moment, I felt like the Cavs offense let them down more than their defense did. And after going back and rewatching some possessions and looking at some of the tracking data, like, I still feel that way. This was a game against the Bucks where the results were worse than the process defensively for the Cavs. Now, the Cavs on Tuesday came out defensively. They were awesome in the first quarter. They held Milwaukee to 24 points. Bucks then hit 8 threes. And according to Synergy, the entire game, Milwaukee took 4 high-quality three-point attempts. That is the lowest the Cavs have allowed an opponent to have in a game since the game against the Washington Wizards just before the All-Star break. Milwaukee's shot quality, their expected effective field goal percentage, was 52%, according to PBP stats. Their actual was like 58%, so that's a pretty big difference. But that 52% expected effective field goal percentage is the second lowest the Cavs opponent has had since the All-Star break. The only one where they played analytically speaking, of course, because like ultimately the results matter. So I get that. But the only game in which they played analytically better defense was their loss in overtime against the Detroit Pistons, where they were really good defensively throughout that night, despite being without several key players. So I thought that the effort matched what those analytics said from the game on Tuesday night. Now, the results need to match the effort and the analytics for this to matter, because ultimately, like, you don't win or lose based upon what your opponent is expected to do. You win or lose based upon what your opponent and you actually do. So I will be looking to see, is that an effort that the Cavs can carry over? Because the last time I was here in Chicago, we saw, I thought, one of the worst efforts from the Cavs this season. And I expect it to be much better on Thursday night against a Bulls team that, listen, they're not necessarily trying to win games. The Bucks were trying to win that game on Tuesday. I don't know if they're going to try and win games coming up, considering the news that came out on Wednesday that they don't want Giannis to play for them the rest of the season. There's a lot to unpack there. Go check out Locked On Bucks for your second list, because I'm sure they have a lot there. But overall, like, I think that the Cavs had a good effort against Milwaukee, and carrying that over to Thursday night in Chicago against the Bulls, I think is the thing to watch. And if they do that, I think this game, if the process looks the same on Thursday as it did on Tuesday, I think the Cavs will have a much better result against the Bulls than they did against the Bucks. But that's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Cavs. I appreciate everybody that makes this show their first listen. You can find us anywhere you get your podcast. It's Apple, Spotify, or on YouTube as well. Please do me a favor as we get out of here. Hit the thumbs up button for me and click subscribe wherever you're listening. And make sure that you hit the notification bell on YouTube so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. I'll be back tomorrow talking more about the Cleveland Cavaliers.